Do you feel that in a time when we are more connected than ever, we are drifting away from real human connection, especially to ourselves? I do. Hi, I'm Leticia Latino, and I want to invite you to join me and my very inspiring guests in exploring ways to reconnect to your essence, to your definite purpose, to what makes you tick. Are you ready? Hello, and welcome to a new episode of Back to Basics, Reconnecting to the Essence of You. I'm with Caleb DeLon today. He's the COO for Paperback Expert, a book writing and publishing firm for business owners. He helps entrepreneurs create books without writing a word, by speaking their content instead of writing it. Caleb spends his days developing new marketing systems and turning the CEO great ideas into a reality. Hello, Caleb, and welcome to Back to Basics.
Leticia, thanks for having me.
Well, I'm excited because, my audience knows I use LinkedIn heavily, and I've seen a few of your posts, and they caught my eye, and I say, well, I'm pretty sure there are a lot of people out there that dream about writing books. This is a fact. You talk to people about it, and then everybody has, I've always wanted to write about this or that, and I say, I should have somebody that has expertise in this and can inspire others to maybe tell their story and make them think about writing books. So, of course, I always ask to get my guests to talk about their own journey. And I don't know if you started right away doing this, or what were you passionate about when you were younger? Did you dream about helping people write their books?
I didn't. When I was really young, I had the typical firefighter, astronaut career aspirations. But once I got into high school, I realized that I enjoyed communication. I did speech and debate competitively throughout high school. And so for a while, I thought that I might go into the practice of law because I liked the idea of reading, writing, arguing. And when I was in late high school, my dad started the company that I work for. He started what became Paperback Expert. And so I got to work with him the ending years of high school and throughout college as he really got this business off the ground of helping other business owners to write books that they could then use as marketing tools to grow your business. So that was the first taste I got of that business, but I didn't necessarily think that it was what I was going to be doing. I went off to graduate school and did other work for a few years. But then 4 years ago in 2021, came back to the family business and didn't know how long it was going to be, but it's really been just a great fit. Love working with my dad. He and I are really great at working together. And so now that's what I get to do every day. And I didn't necessarily dream of it, but now that I'm here, I'm really glad I am.
I love that. And that's probably one of the things that caught my eye also when I was doing my research on you, because also my audience knows I work with my dad too. And it's been a little bit longer, since 2001, that I joined the family business. But I kind of resisted it at the beginning. Did you ever? I'm sure there's other people that can resonate with our stories. Not everybody works for and with their dad. So I want to stop here a moment. Maybe we can help others on that journey. Did you ever resisted it at all? Like, did you ever find any stigma about working with your dad or working for the family business?
I think my dad did a really good job of not pressuring me to join the family business. He was always okay with me going off and doing my own thing, and I did for a couple of years. But then when I called him up and said, "Hey, I think I'm interested in coming back," he was also very welcoming and saying, "I loved working with you when you were here around college, and I would love to have you back." So I think he really modeled well how to be inviting without ever causing me to feel a pressure that that's what's expected of me.
I think that's a huge point. I think my father was just the same, and but I know others where that expectations is put into to them so young, like you're gonna run the family business. Like I even see, I see it in my kids when people say, are they going to join the family business? I say, I don't know, that they have to decide that for themselves. But that's something that I know it's expected. So I'm glad that none of us had to deal with that. And then probably you get this asked as well about how is it? Is it hard? Like some people say it's either easy or it's very hard. I think there's two kind of trails of thought, but I'm surprised how many people say I couldn't do it. I'm like, this is too hard. What do you think has been the success factors for in your own experience that it makes it work so well?
Mm. Yeah. Part of it is personality. My dad and I have very complementary personalities where his strengths and my strengths just fit together well. He's a big picture visionary, out of the box thinker, networker, relationship person. I am much more naturally behind the scenes, detail oriented, create the process, make sure everything's all in a row so that the clients are served well. And so I was able to take a lot of things off his plate that he was doing that. It was really more in my sweet spot. And there are certainly times when we have differences in the strategic direction of the company or where we analyze a challenge differently. And we've had to develop the skills of working through that so that I can, in my role as a COO, say, this is what I think is going on, this is what I think needs to be done, while respecting him both as CEO of the company and also as my father. And for his
Mm,
part, he's been a really amazing boss all throughout. He is the most encouraging person that I know. I think the most encouraging person I've ever encountered. So he's just lavish with his praise, not just of me, but of everybody on the team. Whenever they do something right, whenever he hears it from a client, he is quick to pass it along and quick to give credit where credit is due. And that really
mm,
makes it a lot easier going through even the more challenging times where we have to have intense conversations, knowing that he respects and appreciates me and the work that I do.
mm. Wonderful. He sounds like a great boss, I have to say,
He
and I
really is.
totally connect with what you just share about the strengths, and I think that's in our families exactly what you describe as well. Like, and I work with all my siblings and my sister-in-law, so we are a bunch of us in here, but we all have different superpowers, and we all recognize that. And so everybody, it's good at a different thing. And so that complementary aspect that you showed or that you speak about, it's very important for anybody out there that it's in a family business. Try to find what each one of you has that others don't in the family nucleus, and then try to stay within that lane, and then it should be super, super great experience. I love when we get together and it's just like it's work, but it's not work. And at the same time, it's just family bonding.
Yes, absolutely.
All right. So moving from the family business conversation, you are also, besides helping others, you also are a published author. So tell us about your own experience about writing a book and what are the books
Yeah.
about?
Yes. So the first book that I ever wrote, I actually wrote while I was in high school. I mentioned that I was part of a competitive speech debate league. And there was one particular type of speech that was a limited preparation event. And so you would walk into the room with a panel of judges and draw three slips of paper and pick one of those for your topic for the speech. And you would have about 4 minutes to prepare a 6 minute off the cuff impromptu speech. So this particular event was called Apologetics. It was a Christian league, and so there were 100 topics all about the Bible and different questions that people have about it. You were allowed to bring in some research on like an index card in a file box. And 100 topics is a lot. Most people didn't have time to do all of that research, neither did I. But I realized as I was doing my preparation before the competitions that a lot of the topics related. And so you could do research that would actually help you with 4 or 5 different topics. So I sort of rearranged the 100 topics so that they all fit together into a system where you could research, about 25 cards instead of all 100 and still feel confident when you were walking into the room.
Mm,
So I created that and used it myself, had a lot of success, won some competitions with it. So I developed a curriculum, about how to prepare for the event for other students. And then, since my dad was running the business, I thought I should write a book about this.
Mhm.
So, my first book was called Defend, and it was a sort of a handbook to other students who were in that league competing in that category about how to do it well. So, that was the
Mm.
first book I ever wrote. And then the second I wrote a couple years later with my dad when we decided to put our book process in a book to say, here's what it takes for a business owner to write a book, a good nonfiction business book. We're just going to give the process away. If you want to do it yourself, great, go for it. If you look at that and say, it's too overwhelming and I want some help, then come to us and we'll help you with it. So he and I put our brains together for that second book.
Oh, that's great. And if you all hear an alarm, maybe my building is on fire, maybe. Or it's a test
Hopefully not.
alarm. But so that's really interesting. And your book, Defend, sounds like something I would give my son, by the way. He's very good at arguing. So I'm
Mm.
probably be one of your customers or clients with that. In terms of focusing on business owners, let's talk about why do you think it's so important that as a business owner you find something you to write about and publish a book?
We're operating in a low trust environment. People are skeptical. People have been burned before. People are very wary, and they're especially wary of making significant purchasing decisions. The higher the dollar amount, the more significant the effects are going to be on their lives, the slower they are to make the decision, and the more reassurance they want before they make the decision that it is going to be the right decision for them. One of the strongest things that a business owner can do to establish their authority and credibility as a leader in their industry, as a recognized expert, and as a trusted source of advice is to write and publish a quality nonfiction business book. And that's what we help people do. We work with business owners who are experts at what they do. They've thought about writing a book, but they've just never gotten around to it because they're not good at writing or they're too busy.
That's so interesting. I have to say I'm a fan of the model of thought leadership and how and the power of putting your own thought, your own vision, even this podcast out there, because then it's almost like you change the dynamics of instead of you're chasing your potential customer, the customer becomes aware of who you are, what you do, how you think through those pages, and then they feel they know you already by the time that you're going to engage with them, and that switch of like that to me, it's a powerful reversal of the traditional model.
Absolutely. You said two things there that I love. One is getting prospects to chase you instead of you chasing them. People want to do business with the expert, and experts have books. And then the second thing you said is that they get to know you through the pages of your book. And that's absolutely true. So many business owners make the mistake of not really giving people the opportunity to get to know them before they come in for a meeting. And so that first meeting has to be just a massive hour-long info dump and connecting and building rapport. And some business owners are really great at that, but they're missing the opportunity of using assets like a book to sort of precondition the prospects before they ever get to that room. If you give somebody your book before the meeting, they're going to spend 2 or 3 hours with you in the comfort of their own home, and they're going to come to that first meeting already much more open to the idea of working with you, already liking you in what they've seen in your book.
Mm. And there's the wow factor, right? Because I feel, well, I co-wrote, I haven't written one myself, but I have like 20 in my idea pool, but I co-wrote with other business women. We were invited. I was representing the telecom sector and other CEOs, and it's women in business leading the way. And I thought, that's an interesting thought, like approaching a subject from different angles. And I mean, it was so incredible the when people say, "Oh, you're a published author," and I always say co-author because I never wanted the full credit. But I mean, the wow factor like it's something that I think others look up to, even if they don't read the book. They know you're a published author. You get to put it on your LinkedIn tagline, and that already has value.
Absolutely. You're hitting on the two-pronged value of writing a book. The first prong is it's an instant credibility boost. Even if you never did anything with the book, even if nobody ever read a page of the book, just the fact that you have co-authored or authored a book gives you more credibility than you would otherwise have. So that first prong, you don't really have to do anything besides write the book. I mean, that's hard enough as it is, but you don't have to do anything from a marketing perspective. That marketing perspective is the second prong, is once you have a book, now it is a very versatile marketing tool that can work into whatever you like to do in your marketing. We have people who use their books in television ads or radio programs or direct mail or website and social media ads, all these different channels of marketing. A book is versatile enough that it can be used in a lot of them, depending on what sort of business you're in and how you get people to find you.
Mm. So I think I'm a fan. I think the model of writing the book or a blog or having some sort of platform where you can also control the message and people can get to know you about you or the business. I mean, I started speaking at events, at public events like trade industry, and every time I got the microphone, I got to say whatever I wanted. So that's great because if I was pitching something, I could mention it in passing and then people would approach me after the session to ask me about that thing. So again, the idea of not chasing things around. So let's say we have people in the audience that say, "Oh, this can help me," because as a small business owner, and again, people know that I don't sell anything in this show. I'm not promoting anybody, but I do. I'm a believer. This is something I personally have told my friends, like, think about writing a book, think about establishing thought leadership of sorts, because then things, instead of investing marketing dollars in flyers, invest them in this, and then you're going to get something, at least a change of strategy. If anything, you are doing something for a while that it's a little bit different, and see how it goes. So let's say somebody says, yeah, okay, but I you know what, I'm an accountant, or I don't have like a flashy job, or my small business is not something that I think people would read about. How do you go then to the next step? Because I think that's that fear that my story is not good enough, or I don't have a story at all to tell. It's also where a lot of people stop.
Very true. Oh, there's so many different places to go here. One is message development and story discovery is part of the book creation process. And so for anybody who's considering working with a professional publisher like Paperback Expert, you're going to get some help on that. The way my dad says it is, it's really hard to read the label when you're on the inside of the bottle. And if you
Hmm.
run a business, then you're on the inside of the bottle. You can't see what it says on the outside. You can't see yourself the way that other people do. And so you really will benefit from having somebody ask you some questions about your philosophy and your experience, the way you like to work, the way you don't like to work, to identify some of those things that are uniquely you, and that will influence the angle of the book. And the other aspect about, feeling that you have a boring business. Well, yeah, a lot of businesses are boring. We don't all get to be, professional paragliders or sharks, swim with sharks. But people who are interested in doing business with you are going to be interested in your story and what you do and how you deliver value. So, yeah, even if you have an accounting firm, then if I was considering an accounting firm, I would love to read a book written by the founder because there are so many accounting firms. How am I, someone who knows very little about accounting, supposed to know which one to choose? I have to come up with my own criteria. I have to read a bunch of different ugly looking websites. I have to figure out who's telling the truth and who's not. This is such a pain. If only there was somebody who could give me a guide to how this works and what you should expect and what to watch out for and some stories of other people like me. Oh, look, this person has written a book with all of those things. Thank you. That's
Mhm.
what people say when you write a book, even if your business is boring.
Very, very interesting. So, of all the books that you've gotten involved with, stories, is there any anecdote that you wish to share? I know that also a lot of people say, well, somebody else is doing the writing for me, so maybe I'm not really writing the book, but then at the end of the day, it's about the result so much more than, who eventually put the words into paper. So any good stories there that you want to highlight?
Mm. Yeah, that's a very common and a very sensible objection. That, if I'm gonna put a book out in the world with my name on it, like it really needs to be my book. And we absolutely believe in that. And that's why our model is interview based. We have professional writers who pair up with business owners who are experts at what they do. And after we do some work with the idea development and creating an outline, the writer just conducts a series of interviews and asks question after question after question about, okay, chapter one is about all these mistakes people make. Here's the first mistake. Why do people make that? How can they avoid it? Tell me a story of how you help somebody in that scenario. So at the end of the process, we have 8 to 10 hours of the business owner's words. And when the writer goes away to create the first draft of the manuscript and put together a couple of chapters, that's what they're working from. They're working with the business owner's words. And so the final product, and it does have to be polished and transformed from the spoken word into the written word, but it's still the words of the business owner. It really is them on paper. They're just getting some help from someone who's just as good at writing as they are at running their business.
Mm.
Now, you asked for a story, and so one that comes to mind is a financial advisor named Lynn Godfroy up in Canada. And she came to us and had, some ideas of what she wanted to do, but we worked with her to develop her book idea and decided that what who she is the financial architect for Canadians. And so she works with people to really set the structure for the future that they want to build for themselves. So we helped her to design the book and create the content for the book, get it out to market. But then where it really started to shine was in how she used it. She wasn't really sure how she was going to use the book to grow her business. And we said, well, do you have a list of people who have considered doing business with you before, but haven't yet? Like a list of old prospects. She said, yeah, I've probably got, 300 of those people. I said, great. Just send a very simple email saying, hey, I don't know if you've heard, I just came out with a book. Would you like a copy? She sent that email and got a flood of replies back. They mailed out over 80 copies of her book, physical copies to all these people in her area, set a bunch of appointments, and within 60 days of publishing her book, she had closed 4 or 5 new clients and gotten enough new revenue to more than pay for her investment to create the book in the first place.
Mm. Yeah, it's incredible. It gives you also an excuse to engage, which, having been in sales my whole life, and I sell telecommunication towers. So it's imagine if it doesn't say people buy those. It's like, yeah, people buy those. And sure, trust me, I would do better if I was selling cruises. But in any case, there's definitely an excuse as a salesperson to not just say, let's meet and just bluntly go at selling but just this soft engagement again, where it's just opening a door with a great excuse. So I totally could see how definitely somebody, especially in certain type of businesses, could greatly benefit from doing something like that. I know, well, the expert paperback expert, sorry, webpage is going to be on the show notes. But I also know that I guess it's your dad that hosts the podcast, or you were recently on the podcast. Tell us a little bit about the Expert Speak podcast.
Yes, so Expert Speak is the podcast of Paperback Expert. My dad has been hosting that from the beginning. We're up over 400 episodes now,
Awesome.
and I get to be a guest occasionally on there. But it's a really simple concept where just like we work with experts in a variety of fields to help them turn their knowledge into a book, he interviews experts from a variety of fields about their businesses and about their marketing so that the listeners can learn from all of these experts. because he gets the opportunity to talk to a lot of really, really interesting people.
Mm, that's great. Well, I invite everybody on listening to this to check it out because I've seen a few of the interviews that I know. I'm like, this sounds good. So I'm personally gonna engage in that. So, Caleb, I mean, this has been great. You sound like you're working. I'm sure the knowledge you get working on all these projects and meeting all these people give you a ton of excitement and things to look forward. Is there anything we didn't touch upon in this conversation that you maybe want to highlight? Any exciting projects? Anything noteworthy besides all the great stuff you're doing?
Hmm. I think the one other note is just for your listeners to think, is now the time for me to write the book or not? 'Cause a book is not the first thing that you should do in business. If you're just getting your business off the ground, then there are lots of things that you can do more quickly to get business and establish a network and get your first few clients. A book takes a while. It's a big investment of time and resources. So there's definitely other things you should do first. But if you find yourself in the position of, you've been in business for 10, 20, 30 years, you're an expert at what you do, you know how to get clients, you know how to provide a good service, you're just wondering, what do I need to do to take this whole thing to the next level? That's the position where you really should be seriously thinking about writing a book. Whether you go find a cave and you write it yourself, or whether you say, I'm going to stick to my zone of genius, running my business, and I'm going to find a trusted partner like Paperback Expert. Either way, that's the point at which if you come out with a good book, then you have now a new marketing asset that you can use for years to come.
Mm, great closing thought. Thank you. Thank you for that. Well, my last question on all the podcast is about what makes you tick. So we've spoken about making other people's dream of a book a reality. I'm sure that makes you tick. What else, or what's your go-to practice or thing or place when you need to resource yourself?
Mm. I really enjoy taking walks, and some of those are short walks just around the neighborhood near my house. But then I try to get out regularly, a couple of times a month, to one of the many state parks around Nashville, Tennessee. And I'll just go and be in the wilderness for a couple of hours. I'm not
Mm,
listening to anything, not really doing anything, just letting my thoughts go, walking, thinking, processing. And that's a really rejuvenating practice for me.
Well, another thing we have in common. I love my walks too, and especially at night. I go around my neighborhood and we have a nice, we're in the water, and it's just so, it allows me to connect also to something deeper. So thank you for that. Well, I thank you for your time. Thank you for helping me plant this seed about bringing something that maybe uh, others have thought about and think, no, this is not for me. You have opened a door, a window of opportunity to say, maybe this is worth exploring. And if you're curious about it, my closing thought is just be curious, open, explore. As Caleb said, it's not something you need to do tomorrow, but the fact that something resonated about writing a book, if it did, just put it on your vision board. And when the time is right, it will happen. So thank you. Thank you all for joining. And until the next episode of Back to Basics. Bye. You've been listening to Back to Basics. You can follow us on Instagram and Facebook. If you haven't yet, subscribe, rate, and review this podcast on Apple Podcast or any of your favorite streaming platforms. This is the best gift you can give us. Join me next week for another Back to Basics conversation. And if you want to find out about other exciting things I'm working on, visit leticialatino.com. Thank you, and until the next time.